I've spent the last 15 years obsessing about how to make the best decisions. I've read countless books on habits, productivity, psychology, and even books on decision making, looking for the right system or insight that could give me the confidence and the trust I needed in my decisions. But today, I'll show you how to make decisions you can trust, how to avoid all the pitfalls that come with true decision making. I will also show you how to use the best method for weeding out good decisions from bad decisions, using what I believe to be the easiest starting point for any decision worth making: RAP. Every day, we make decisions big and small, but the truth is, most of us fall victim to 4 destructive biases that wreak havoc on our goals and the things we truly want in life. Research shows that cognitive biases like narrow framing, confirmation bias, short-term emotion, and overconfidence affect us all. In fact, a study published in Psychological Science found that people tend to evaluate options in isolation, which can lead to suboptimal choices. So how do we avoid these traps? We should begin by understanding these biases first. Narrow framing is the tendency to view choices in binary terms. For example, this or that. Often we only consider the very first choices that come to mind and overlook alternatives. On top of that, we may also be suffering some confirmation bias. Confirmation bias forces us to seek information that supports our existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. For example, your goal might be to lose weight and you've decided that a keto diet is the best option without ever considering the pros and cons of a keto diet or considering other weight loss options altogether. This is one that I'm particularly prone to since the idea of starting a new goal is exciting and I get lost in just jumping in instead of slowing down and thinking about it. Which brings me to the next bias: short-term emotion, being swayed by temporary feelings rather than long-term outcomes. I constantly have to keep an eye out for this one. Our last bias we need to keep in mind is overconfidence, overestimating how much we know or believing we can predict the future. As smart as we are, sometimes we aren't as smart as we thought. We think we understand the playing field we're working in, we think we understand the people whose help we need, or we simply make decisions that don't line up with the dynamic we're dealing with. So where do we start? The first step is to widen your options. Think about this. When you're deciding between A and B, why not consider option C or D? The Heath brothers suggest avoiding whether or not choices and looking for creative alternatives. A 2010 study by Heath and Heath in collaboration with Duke University demonstrated that organizations that deliberately generate multiple options make better strategic decisions 63% of the time. This can be applied to anyone. For example, I've been in the veterinary field for more than 10 years, and although I love working with animals, the job is hard and rarely pays well. Because of that, I've spent the last couple of years thinking about finding a new career. I spent a long time only considering careers within the veterinary field, completely ignoring other medical careers. That is until I took the time about a year and a half ago to research and find a new venture. Since then, I've started a second career and have also found other exciting choices I could pursue in parallel. I've also started the process of pursuing a third career that pays on its own what I make today with 2 jobs. So now you have more than just 2 choices, but are they realistic? Turns out, we can check. It's easier to see things we want to see and completely ignore facts that don't fall in line otherwise. The book Decisive says to actively seek out evidence that challenges our assumptions. Think of assumptions as starting points for ideas instead of truths. Our brains tend to produce ideas and solutions to problems in an instant, but these solutions need attention and care to be effective. In a study published in Organizational Behavior and Human Decision Processes, researchers found that participants who actively sought out opposing viewpoints reduced their likelihood of making biased decisions by 30%. But is 30% really that much? Well, let's visualize it. Imagine you're considering a new job opportunity that pays 30% more weekly than your current job. Let's say your job now pays $800 a week. 30% of $800 is $240. So by making the switch to that new job, you'll be making $1,024 a week. That's a lot of money. Now, let's say you're thinking of buying a car now that you have more income. Instead of just reading positive reviews, checking out the list of features, or imagining yourself driving that car, seek out articles or reviews from people who hate that car to learn about potential pain points that may come up. You might realize you won't be very happy, and instead you might consider a different, cheaper car that you really love. The mission here is to gather more perspectives. The more you understand your choices and what they really offer, the better decisions you'll be able to make. You must be ready to make your move now that you have 2 or more realistic options, right? Well, not quite. When I was a teenager, me and my little brother's dad went to a place called a swap meet. A swap meet is essentially a really big warehouse with about 100 mini stores you can browse through looking for things you might need like at really cheap prices. On the way into the swap meet, we were approached by this guy in a really nice black Mercedes Benz that was offering to sell us gold jewelry for a cheap price. Sounds fishy, but my brother's dad ended up buying the jewelry and we stepped inside to get it checked for authenticity. And as you probably guessed by now, the gold chains and who knows what else were completely fake. We got scammed good. I'm a lot older now and I'm still 100% guilty of making decisions in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later, wishing that I had spent just a little time thinking about it. So what can we do about that? The Heath brothers suggest the 10-10-10 rule. Think about your decision and how it will feel in 10 minutes, 10 months, or 10 years from now. But don't take my word for it. Neuroscience supports this approach. A study in the Journal of Neuroscience shows that creating temporal distance reduces emotional intensity, helping people think more rationally. Maybe you don't need to follow this rule to a T, but I do suggest giving decisions you're considering making some time to settle. Maybe wait 3 days, a week, or even a month to see how you feel about it. And because no decision is perfect, always prepare for the unexpected. A Harvard Business Review article emphasizes the importance of tripwires, like setting deadlines or budget limits so you can reassess your options and pivot if needed. At the end of the day, keep in mind that if a decision isn't working out, it's better to cut your losses than to commit to a losing strategy. Now, here's something to think about. Can a man observing a painting observe himself observing the painting? Sometimes, when we follow a structured approach like this one, we miss a hidden layer of insight. So how do we avoid blind spots, golden insights, and better approaches in our decisions? Watch this next video and I'll explain everything.